She Exists magazine, one of America's fastest growing publications, the best in travel, fashion, food, and entertainment from around the world. Check out our first edition of He Exists magazine. Looking for an ad space or feature? Contact us for your next spot. She Exists magazine, digital publication coming soon. Subscribe today.
Hello, it's Bran, another episode of Becoming the Best You, Overcoming Challenges. Welcome to BTBY TV. I am with Rich Steffen, and I met him actually just a short time ago, but he's got a great story. He's been self-employed for many years, and I'm sure there's some challenges that have attacked you, because challenges, that's what they do. They attack you, and we either let them win or we overcome them, and then we win. So, Rich, why don't you start off telling them a little bit about what you do now, and maybe a little bit about your history.
Yeah. Right now, I've got kind of two things running. I am in real estate right now, although I've been in real estate for about 22 years. And I'm gradually trying to work myself out of that and get into really what I feel my heart calling is. And anyway, and that is basically coaching. And it's been a process. It is something that it's taken. I look back now and I go, you connect the dots, and I'm just surprised I needed this many dots to actually get it connected.
Sometimes it does. It takes a lot.
Nonetheless, I've been a kind of a human behavior nut all my life. My mom was a behavioral therapist, and so plenty of conversations around the house about just the terminology and things like that.
And I bet there was plenty about your behavior.
Yeah, we weren't allowed to go at home and get upset and shut the door and say, I don't want to talk to anybody. We had to come out and talk about things and why, what happened, and what part we played, and what would we do differently next time, and things like that. But I actually didn't mind having those conversations, was oddly enough. And so anyway, I've been in 6 different businesses, of which 5 of them have been in a self-employed status. And ironically enough, in all 6 of those businesses, I found myself in a training, mentoring, which is also now called coaching position in every one of those businesses. And I never applied for the position. And that was really the dots I connected going back and looking at that, because that was the times where being able to be a part of that was kind of the best part of the job in a lot of cases. And just loved seeing things kind of line up when you realize that people were being positioned and trained to be in a spot that really fit them versus just filling a hole.
That's something to be said with that, because if you're in a spot that fits them, you do a better job and you want to go to work. And now if you love it, it's not a job. It's something you do that you love. And that's part of the reason why we do Becoming the Best You. So when you talk about coaching in real estate, what is it that you did in real estate?
I got started as an investor. And that's also part of where some of the mentoring and coaching came into play. And then then ended up getting licensed. And when I got licensed was the person that raised my hand, and because I went to held my license at a brokerage that advocates education. Mm-hmm. And when I raised my hand, I said, "Boy, the education could be way better than it is now." Because a lot of people weren't that interested, and they go, "Well, great. What would you like to do with it?"
You got voluntold.
And as a result, I now took over the education department. And as part of that happening, made a lot of connections with new agents and agents that had only been in the business for 1-2 years and whatever. And it became an ongoing conversation versus just attend a class and leave.
Right.
And so that evolved into a situation where now the company I was working for said, "Gosh, we'll be willing to compensate you for maintaining this relationship and helping people," because what they looked at it as, it was a retention tool now, as opposed to agents just can't figure it out and then walk away. And so I said, sure, and kind of got into that process and did that for 9 years. And was eventually offered the opportunity to do that on a national basis. And for a lot of different reasons, nothing against the company, but what I realized that really wasn't a fit between what they had to offer and really how I wanted to do what I wanted to do as far as coaching. And about 2.5 years ago, elected to really just say, okay, I'm going to make a conscious decision to get out on my own. I'm going to build this for me. And that's kind of where I am right now.
And that's awesome. So many people are stuck. They don't know, they want to do that, but they don't know how, or they're afraid, or a family member's against it. So they just squash their dreams. What would you recommend to somebody that is really good at what they do, and they have this vision that they want to do this job and what that's going to look like, and they want to go out on their own, but yet then they have that negative naysayer in their ear that's stopping them from doing it? How would you encourage that?
I tell you, I'm a big fan of objectivity. And I think that that's one of the key things that a coach should be doing with their clients, is that we're not here to tell them what to do. We're not here to, we're here to basically answer questions. We're here to give them the opportunity to propose what it is they have to do, and help them sort of sort through the mess and clear the dust out of the air, so that they can say, okay, now I'm glad, now I got a pretty good handle on what I should be doing, and sometimes it's just a matter of being a sounding board.
Which is true.
But I think that the idea of, and we all know, common phrase is, we're all experts at the other person's problem. Well, when you have the problem, you need to find the other expert that has either been there before, or at least has the ability to kind of help you kind of sort through things. And the reality is that when you see the right thing, and you'll know it, but a lot of times there's just the odd opportunity of confirmation that really is super key. And it's like when you have your friends, you can say, well, I'm good at this, and said, well, Rich, you can do those, but the one that really you're great at is this. And they go, thank you, I appreciate that.
Yeah, and sometimes you don't see your own greatness. And we tend to get on a path of, we want it to look like this, but that's not really who we are. So in order to get it to look like this, I think people need to follow who they are, but they think they got to do it like everybody else.
Yeah, and I think that we're a lot of times when we're looking to fill a position or create a position, the thing that we don't want to run into is, well, you'd be a great fit, but you're not good at this. Well, does that mean that means to a lot of people, well, I need to be great at just about anything, or at least to be able to speak to everything. And that is so not the case. And so when you really get into your spot, into your lane, as I call it, it's like stay in your lane. When you find your lane, it is such a refreshing experience. And many times when the things that I get from feedback from people is like, once we've kind of gone through the process and they found their lane, they go, it's like, I had no idea how a breath of fresh air this could be.
And when you're in your lane, you become an expert in your area.
Exactly. I mean, it's like, and the reality is that no one can do you as well as you.
That's right.
And if that's the case, then all of a sudden the concern over competition kind of goes away.
I like to tell people there really isn't any competition, because competition is who you think is your competition, not the reality of who really is. Yeah. Now, I get it in sports. You're playing another team that might be better than you, or you have to compete to get on something. There might be some competition there. But really, you are your own competition, because we put fear and doubt in our mind, and we don't think we can do it. We don't think we're good enough, or we think we have to know all these things to be good at what we do. But the reality is you just have to know the part that you're good at. And, find the people to fill in the gaps.
Yeah, I think a lot of times, one of the, things that I was told a while back is that I did work with the pastor of our church, and his big thing is he didn't want to be a pastor. What he wanted was an equipping center for people that wanted to find what their destiny was, and wanted to put a program together for this equipping center to help people through that process. And the very first beginning phase of that was, a class called Your God-Given Why. And
I like that title.
And so it was me and one other guy that were put together this program for him for that first phase. And one of the things that came up out of that I just love was that people, when they get into these things, they come to these events for what they can acquire or gain, when a lot of times what they walk away with is what they have the ability to let go of. And when you can let go of the garbage, and like what we talk about with coaching is you have the position of where you are now and where you want to be, and there's the gap in between. And they refer to the gap as being, the gap is a gig, and they say garbage is always in the gap. It's like,
there's so much truth in that.
Yeah, how do you get from where you want to be? Well, if that's the part we have to figure out. And so if you can go in and look at the garbage and the gap and realize what you can get rid of, because you know what you need to keep as a result of knowing and being very clear about what your strengths and what you're designed for and what you're here to achieve or accomplish or offer, things get pretty easy at that point, because most people, the real source of procrastination and stagnation is a lack of clarity. And so when you get the stuff that doesn't belong to you off your plate, clarity all of a sudden replaces that. And now you have the ability to bring on more things that support you.
Yeah, you have space for that now.
That's right. And then life gets really pretty sweet.
You guys hear that? Clarity. When you get clarity, things open up for you. And I'm assuming that's what you try to get people to realize.
Yeah, I mean, I in just in my own training, one of the exercises that we had to go through was, our messaging for, how we're going to communicate what it is that we do. And they said, what we're going to start off with today is everybody has to come up with their own power word, power word. And then you build out from the power word. And that becomes the overarching theme. And mine was clarity, for sure. And it didn't, and I was going, okay, let me think. It was like, nope, it came like boom. I'm going, that's what it is, clarity. And it has been true.
Which is also what you needed.
Exactly. And it was not only what I wanted to give and share and enable others to achieve, but it was also something that I love having for myself, because I know how efficient life seems to be when clarity exists. And it just seems to be a rejuvenating process versus, at the end of the day, an exhausting process.
And when you're not clear, when you don't have that clarity, you're debating, what do I need to do? How do I need to do it? Putting things into a priority order. But when you have that clarity, all of that falls into place. And I don't think people understand that having that clarity basically helps them to overcome their challenges.
I think what's interesting is that my very first career out of college was a W-2 position. I was in the restaurant industry, of which most people think about the restaurant industry as being a place that spits you up and chews you up and spits you out. I absolutely loved what I did. And for 9 years, I worked my tail off. I put in tons of hours. I traveled a lot. I mean, I was working 7 days a week, sometimes for a month straight. And I was rip-roaring ready to get out of bed every morning to go do what I was doing. And people looked at that and go like, that's craziness. And I'm going, yeah, but I love it.
See?
And did that for 9 years. And when that ended, I couldn't believe how much I missed that. And but what that really gave me, even though the experience and I loved the business a lot, but what it really truly made me realize and dissect later on as time went on, especially after my next probably 20 years of experiences being self-employed, was at least I had a taste of what it was like to truly be in my lane, because I was. Because there's no way I could have done what I did.
And you thrived at it.
Yeah, there's no way I could have survived that amount of hours and the time I put in and spent if I wasn't. It would have worn me to the bone.
Oh, definitely.
And so realizing, okay, so now dissecting, looking at that, and it's like, okay, what was it about that it really pulled out of me that that was like a perfect fit? And it was from there that I started to assess the other things that in my decisions. It was a filter for me about, okay, how do I want to move forward? What do I need in order to, in my next position, in my next job, and what I want to do and what I don't want to do and what I want to delegate or hire
helped you
for.
To get clarity because you had some experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So a lot of people would, unfortunately, is that they never have had the taste, of what it was like to really be in their lane. And so that's something many times is the first position. It's like, okay, let's find what that is. So at least you have an idea or an idea as to what you're after. And for me, it was super clear. But for others, it's a starting point, but you have to start somewhere.
You do. You absolutely do. So tell us, in your field, in your lane, with all of your clarity, what would be your ideal client, person that would benefit most from your services?
My ideal client, first of all, it's an individual. And so, but it's also an individual that in my situation is in business. I'm not so concerned about the number of employees they have. I'm looking for an individual that they are the sole decision maker. Everything rests on their shoulders right now. And they're in a spot where they are the solopreneur, give or take. And solopreneurism has a tendency to be a very lonely field.
Yeah.
And what they're truly lacking is the objectivity, because objectivity and the lack thereof just breeds procrastination. When procrastination comes into the picture, then all of a sudden it starts to impede direction and decision making. Overwhelm happens. Cash flow starts to suffer. They need someone to be by their side, to be the objective party, to help them, to talk things through when they need someone to talk things through. Eventually, at all points, if someone said when I very first got into coaching, and life coaching is the overarching umbrella, is that what would you like to do? I'd love to be a life coach. Well, what I also understood was that almost all of my clients up to this point have been in business. But as you coach them on their business, you eventually end up being a life coach, because one of the connections that gets made is that your life and the quality of your life is what gives you the energy to be able to build the business that you want. And building the business that what you want is what gives you the resources to have the life that you want. And so if you don't have one of the other pays the price.
That's right.
So if you don't have a quality life, you're not going to have the energy for the business. And if you don't have the energy for the business, it's not going to produce the results that's going to give you the quality life.
That's right.
So what comes first, the chicken or the egg? And so many times it's a matter of, okay, we need to start somewhere, and where's the most critical point? And that's kind of where we go back to the idea of Pain Island to Pleasure Island. What does Pain Island today look like, and what is the most critical hump that we need to get past? And then look at, okay, if life was operating the way that you would want it when you originally got into business, the very things you say, I'm getting into business because of this reason, and what you had visualized, what did that look like? And now what you've learned, how does that even refine the vision of what it is that you want out of this business in order for you to say, yeah, I want to stay in business? Okay, now we've got a spread in there. Where do we start? And then we go from there.
The Bible says without vision, the people will perish. And a lot of times you say, well, I don't have a lot of people, but you do. You have you and you have your family. So those right there are the first people that you don't want to perish, right? So, when I talk about vision, you have to be very clear on what that vision is so you know how to get it. So if you have a vision that you think you want to end up over here, then how do you plan to get there? You can't just get in the car and go if you don't know where you're going. You have to have that map.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things I use, which is to kind of break it down to a real simple conversation with people, I said, do you honestly think that, and I'm a Chiefs fan.
Yeah, me too.
Do you honestly think that Patrick Mahomes' vision is just make a touchdown?
It's so much more.
That is purely a goal.
That's right.
In literal figures and virtually. But for him, the vision is to, be the best he can be. And the Super Bowl is on the path of the vision. But if you asked him, okay, so tell us, Patrick, how exactly you're going to get to the Super Bowl? He's going to say, I don't know how it's going to play out. I just have to be there full out all the time. I have to practice and be good at what I do. I have to stay in my lane. I have to figure out what it is that I do best and rely on the people and surround myself with other people that do what they do best. And as a result, together, we'll get there. And it's going to be yard by yard. It's going to be first down by first down. It's going to be by, goal and a point achieved time and time again. And once they're at the Super Bowl, you can ask any one of them. They say, okay, this is the way you thought it would happen. And they'll go, no. And so it's the same exact thing. But if you don't, people think many times that you work towards a vision, when the reality is that you work from your vision. You can't connect the dots to your vision. You can only connect the dots to your past. And so, but to have a vision, once that becomes so clear in your mind that you can connect with that vision with all 5 kinesthetic senses that you have, that is a very true, clear picture in your subconscious that gets planted there. And the subconscious is the goal getter. Your conscious is the goal setter and your subconscious is the goal getter. And your subconscious will do its job, but you have to give it the information so it knows what it's after. And as a result, through time, and our job from that point forward is being always having the willingness to be aware and be willing to entertain what comes up. Because it's like, when the biggest piece that I think most people recognize is that when something is truly in your head that is, or in your subconscious that is planted there in a firm way, it activates your reticular activating system. And it's like, how many times have, you buy a red car and all of a sudden, how many red cars do you see on the highway?
Everywhere, all day long.
And it's the same thing. That's how your vision works. And you didn't see red cars on the highway to buy a red car. You bought a red car, and as a result,
you're seeing all the red cars.
You start seeing. So your mind works backwards that way. And so it's the exact same thing with a vision. And you'll realize that after a while, when you allow yourself the willingness to just entertain things that cross your path, you'll see things. Once you've established your vision, you'll see things cross your path. You're going, that aligns. And then it gets to be, when you get a couple of those, it gets really fun.
Well, I love it. And there's so much truth in that. Not only is there truth in that, there's provenness in that.
Absolutely.
It's been proven.
I've seen it happen for myself, and for many, many, many of my clients.
And not everybody's going to see the same vision that you see. They might think you're nuts, or they might not support it. But it's your vision, it's not theirs.
That's right.
And you need to go on down that road, because if you're living out somebody else's vision, I know in my life, I'm not going to do it well. I'm here, and I'm here for you because it's your vision.
That's right.
But I'm not going to participate like, what if it was mine? So if it's yours, take charge of it and make it happen. That's what I
think one of the other things that I really, a term or a phrase that I like about where I like to be for my clients is that I'm a partner in believing with them. I believe they can do it. And when they believe they can do it and I believe it as well, a lot can happen.
That's support.
That's exactly right.
Yes. And when you have support, you have that cheerleader, you have somebody that believes in you. And when you have that belief, man, things can happen. Things can happen. A lot of people don't believe in themselves. They think I'm not good enough because they're comparing themselves to somebody else. I had to quit doing that because I thought, well, I don't look like that, so they're not going to hire me. I don't have the same skills that they have, so they're not going to hire me. And reality is, I have to get hired every day of my life because I'm self-employed. So do you. So every person that I meet is a job interview. It really is, either for TV show interview or for commercial or for selling event tickets, speaking services, whatever it is, it's an interview. And if I don't believe that I can do that for them, then why would they hire me? And that works the same for yourself.
I'm going to sound like the keeper of phrases here, but I think that one of the things that I saw the other day, and I'm not a social media person, but I did see it on Facebook, and I took a screenshot of it because I loved it. It says, work hard at being the shot of espresso for your clients versus a cup of tea for everyone.
No, that's powerful.
Or everyone's cup of tea.
That's powerful.
And I think that's exactly right. It's like,
it's that boost.
Yeah. And if what you're after is not a fit for you, then look at that as being a blessing that you realize that, because you just got off the hook of having to waste your time.
That's good. You're right.
And so you just let yourself off the hook for basically an opportunity that will be a better fit for you.
So what I'm hearing him say is, let yourself off the hook by getting clarity and moving forward in your life through the vision and towards the vision and make it happen.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So how can they get in touch with you?
Probably one of the easiest ways is on LinkedIn, and it's just my name, Rich Steffen. And on there's my email address, is contact information. It's also for people that maybe have a kind of have a serious interest that would like to kind of look into things. I also have a calendar that's on there. They can schedule a session for 20-30 minutes. And that session is just, it's a matter of a conversation, and because I think that when I talk about being a fit, when the conversation occurs, it's like I'm looking at a fit for what I know I do, and they're looking for a fit for who they want. And that's really kind of what we're after, is making sure it's a good fit for both people. But at the very least, my goal is that whoever I talk to be able to help them in some way, shape, or another.
And it doesn't have to be real estate.
And it doesn't have to be real estate.
Yes.
In fact, I'd actually prefer if it just not be real estate. So if it just be, the concept of, being the best you can be. For me, the phrase that I use is, to unlock and engage your genius. How do you unlock it? Because it's there. Many people just never take the time to get it out of the safe. And
what good is it doing you in there?
And so, what is it good is it doing there? So, if you had money inside of a safe and you left the safe closed, what good is the money doing?
And it's not even earning you anything. Which means
exactly right.
The same way for yourself.
And these are things that you can't throw away, you can't get rid of. These are things that you're born with, as they're innate, God-given gifts, and they're there for a reason. And especially because there's not a person I've met out there that believes they weren't put here for some reason.
Yes.
And so, and the tools to identify and fulfill that reason are in that safe. And
love the analogy.
Yeah. So it's like, once that gets unlocked, and then now you look at that and say, okay, now what do we do? Now it's a matter of taking these pieces and being super, again, clear on what those things are, and to be able to look at them and go, yeah, that feels right. That feels right.
Yeah.
And now you own, or have the ability and the comfort level of owning those traits. And once you own them, then now you have the freedom. And also, what I would say is the freedom to incorporate these in your life, to leverage those in your life, but also the responsibility to incorporate these and leverage them into your life.
You know, that says a lot, because we do tuck our things away.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it's to save them for something great, just like you buy a brand new pack of t-shirts and you keep them in the drawer because you might need that brand new white t-shirt one day.
Mm-hmm.
But every other day you're wearing the old ones with the holes in it and stains in it. And what you don't realize is that's also how you're representing yourself. So you bought them, open them up and use them for the purpose that they were designed to be. And that's the same way with yourself, you know. And it sounds like to me that you are helping people. You're not telling people, you're helping people realize that first.
Mm-hmm.
And it's coming from them. You just help them to understand it, to get it out there, to realize it,
Mm-hmm.
and then show them how to move forward with it.
Yeah, I think a lot of times, people, kind of getting back to where we first started about, when people get a little reluctant to put themselves out there because they're concerned about what others might say or what others might think. And the reality is that what I found, and this was something that I experienced firsthand. You talk about people the term that person's a visionary, and then there's leaders.
Mm-hmm.
There's a distinction between a leader and a visionary.
Yeah, there is.
And the very first time I was exposed to being around a visionary, I mean, it became so clear about the benefit of finding that spot for myself. And what I also realized is that person could care less about what other people said or thought about them because they were so in their spot.
Mm-hmm.
And there was something really attractive and comforting about that. And so I could have hung around that person all day long. And what I'll tell you is that when we get to the point where we're in the spot where of being the truest version of who we are, then we will attract the people that are most appreciate who we are. And all of a sudden, all of that negative talk goes away. Because the people, the stronger we are about who we are, we'll attract the people that respect and respond to that. And we'll also alienate the people that don't resonate with that because they don't want to be around.
And good riddance.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that happens as a result of almost no effort on our part. The only effort is us focusing on ourselves.
And being ourselves. Yes. And that's part of you really just said exactly why we do Becoming the Best You.
Mm-hmm.
People need to realize that they are their best asset.
Mm-hmm.
They are their best chance of having the assets that they want in life, because it has to start within them. And they don't see that in themselves. And we like to bring that out because everybody's got a value.
Mm-hmm. And I think that, one of the when I first worked with a business owner, what I see over and over again is that they get in, and society has taught them this. It's not like a self-started thing, but they say, okay, I've got a problem. And I say, okay, so what are you doing about it so far? Well, I've done this and this and this and this and this. And I'm going, okay. And so some of them have been paid and some of them have been not paid, but all of the solutions that they've supposedly chosen to fix their problem have all been on the outside. And the one thing that they failed to do, or in some cases never realized they should have done, is look in the mirror first. Because just like you said, and I told the business, I said, the biggest asset you have in your business is you.
That's right.
You
are the business.
You are the business, and should be the business. And so your business and where you are in business is a direct reflection on where you are with yourself.
That's true.
You can't love anyone else or what you do any more than you love yourself. And if you aren't appreciative and respectful and have an understanding and a clarity of who you are and really own that, then what happens is no one's going to trust you to do what you do for them, because they want someone that really owns what they do.
That's true. Very true. And I probably couldn't have said it better. Yes.
And so it's like, and I think that for me is that I think what I want to be for my clients is the person that would want to have sitting across the table from me if the situation was reversed.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
And that's what I want for the people that are my
Yes.
clients, is that be there for them in a way that they go, okay, that's, and if I was on the table, it's like, I want to have that comfort level of that person is there for me and is the right person for me, the right fit for me, the right competencies for me, and so on.
You know, when I was doing sales, which I guess I still do sales, I would have to, and I tell people when I train in sales, would you buy from yourself? Because if you're not going to buy for yourself, you need to go back and redevise that whole plan, because if you're not, then they're not.
I know that's a looking in the mirror thing.
It is.
You know, and I think that, I jokingly, when people, when I need an icebreaker, I'll tell people, I said, and they say, okay, well, what do you want to accomplish? And they're not going to be clear on what they want to accomplish right away. And the other thing, they're either trying to accomplish something or get away from something.
Mm-hmm.
But one way or the other, if I ask them a point blank comes up, so what do you want to accomplish? They give me kind of a waffly answer. And I said, okay, you know what I want to accomplish in this? I said, I want to get to the point where there's no mirror that you're afraid to look into.
Mm-hmm.
And they'll chuckle and laugh and they'll go, but they understand exactly what I'm saying.
But it's right. And, I often tell myself, am I the type of wife that I would want? Am I the type of mother that I would want? To put yourself back in the situation of the people who really can't get away from you, right? I guess you could get away from your husband if you wanted, but am I that person? Am I being the person that I would want to be married to? Mm-hmm. That I would want to have as a spouse or a mom or a grandmother or as a friend? Am I that person? And I have to remind myself of that every day, that sometimes I'm not, but I can keep striving to become that person.
Right.
And people need to understand that you can reset. You can start new in your thinking every day.
Yeah, and it all starts with an awareness of what that looks like, an awareness of what of the fact that what is working and what isn't working, as opposed to just focusing on it hasn't worked or it has worked, and not any idea of like, well, why did it work and why is it not working?
Yes.
And so again,
and why it's not working is just as important. So
absolutely.
You know where you need to change, why it's not working. You need to know that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that one of the things that we talk about is when things aren't working, is people have a tendency, and this is one of the other pieces that with work with people on, is everybody wants it to work right. Mm-hmm. But they find that many of the times, most of their focus is spent on what isn't working. And it's like I said, when that happens, notice what you're noticing, take a deep breath, and then focus on what you want, because that's not what you want.
Yeah, and you're spending all your time there.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And it's like, if you're over here standing in the kitchen and here's the food on the stove and here are the dishes in the sink, you think the food's going to get cooked correctly or not get burnt if you're washing the dishes? Do you think the dishes are going to get done if you're over here cooking what's on the stove? Neither one. But the bottom line is you need to figure out and make the decision of what it is that you want. And that is also aligned with the vision, but what it is that you want. And that's where you spend your time, and not allow yourself to get wrapped around the pole of what other people are so willing and easily talk about, and that is the water cooler discussion. Yes. And just get lost into that, because that's just a rabbit hole.
It is. And it takes valuable time. It's something you cannot get back.
Yeah, and you're worth way more than that.
That's right. Agreed.
You're worth way more than that.
Well, thank you guys for watching. Again, get a hold of Rich. I will put up all of his links. And again, stay tuned for more ordinary people doing extraordinary things. giving you the hope and the encouragement that you need to move forward. So remember, change your mindset. That will change your actions, and that will change your life. Thanks for watching, guys.